The Federal Reserve is projecting as many as 3 interest rate cuts next year. That could help lower mortgage rates, which this year have been at a 2-decade high, and make homeownership more affordable for many. Some experts also point to a landmark jury decision that could also change the cost of buying and selling a home. Economics correspondent Paul Solman has the story from Missouri.
If you think I'm going to cut my bleeping commission,
one senior realty broker sharing his favorite commission tactic.
You can take this home and shove it up your bleeping, and I know that it will fit.
This clip from a real estate podcast, and one's not quite so bleep heavy, helped persuade a federal jury in Missouri that the National Association of Realtors and its members have illegally conspired for decades to fix commission rates on home sales. Money paid to selling agents who invariably cut in the buyer's agents 50-50. Plaintiff attorney Mike Ketchmark.
Why is it that the only system in our entire country, if you want to sell something, that you're paying the other side?
Or as one of Ketchmark's plaintiffs, former policeman Jared Bright, put it,
what a weird system that the person that I had never met and did absolutely nothing for me as a consumer was getting the full percentage.
3%, fully half the typical total commission. Worse still, says winning attorney Ketchmark, large firms are coming to dominate the industry and have a huge incentive to preserve the system.
Half the time, these corporations are making their money representing sellers, and half the time they're making their money representing buyers. And so they're propping this system up, and they're benefiting each other.
But not anymore, assuming the verdict withstands appeal. For now, Ketchmark has won a $1.8 billion judgment on behalf of some 500,000 home sellers in just Kansas, Missouri, and Illinois.
We took 100 depositions of these top corporations in real estate, and they have training materials saying, fix your commissions at 6%.
When home sellers saw that I had written in a 6% commission into the contract and would ask Gino, aren't commissions negotiable? I would always answer confidently, yes. Commissions are negotiable, but I can only go up.
And what we did is we started uncovering this.
So this next trial exhibit came as no surprise. Between 2015 and 2022,
we looked at the actual closing documents for the 110,000 homes sold in the Kansas City area. 98% of the time, the commissions were set between 2.5% and 3% to the buyer's commission. 94% of the time, it was right at 3%.
The 3% the seller's agent gave the buyer's agent as a cooperation fee. So in addition to through-the-roof mortgage rates these days, a now higher-than-ever median American home price of $430,000, about $26,000 of which is realtor commissions, $13,000 for each agent, regardless of effort, making homes that much more expensive than even their market price. And thus the complaint, industry-wide commission fixing. As the video clips so blatantly suggested, agents colluding with the National Association, which owns the word realtor. To call yourself one, you must be a dues-paying member. The trade group's response?
Commissions have always been completely negotiable, will always be completely negotiable, and those are set up front with the listing agent and the seller much ahead of time.
Look, a few individual brokers may behave badly, says Kip Cooper, CEO of the Kansas City Regional Association of Realtors, but
the National Association of Realtors has always been clear that, and it's in all of our guidance documents, it's in every meeting I've attended for the last 23 years, that we're not to talk about or set a commission rate.
Well, mum's the word for most of us when it comes to negotiating commissions.
I've never heard anybody talk about commission as part of their buying experience.
First-time home buyer Stephanie Green closed on this house in Kansas City last spring to accommodate the, extended family.
High five. High five.
To Green, buying was all about price. Negotiating the commission never occurred to her or to plaintiff Bright.
I thought, as a first-time home buyer in this experience, that 6% is 6% is 6%.
But then, and please bear with me as I try to untangle this legal web, why do sellers' agents share their commission instead of pocketing the whole 6%? Real estate economist Norm Miller.
The general feeling among the industry is that if they don't offer competitive buyer co-op fees, no one will show the home. That is, they'll steer away from it.
Okay, a seemingly rigged system, just as the jury found. And yet Stephanie Green likes the current system, even though she realizes home buyers like her wind up paying a sizable commission sort of hidden as part of the final price.
It really helped us out to be able to work that into the mortgage rather than having to pay it all up front.
This is the Monopoly board game, so this is the pathway to home ownership.
And buyer's agents certainly often do provide plenty of value, especially, as Tanisa Brown does, for first-time home buyers.
Get a job.
I have a job.
You will never guess the amount of people who have reached out to us who are interested in buying a home but don't have a job or a source of income.
Her agency walks clients through the very basics.
You need to buy a house because you have a baby. Now you're thinking about the future.
I have 2 children. I have a son who's autistic. I wanted to write a letter so whoever home I was buying, they got to know a little bit about me.
Tylynn Beauvoir says one of Brown's agents coached her well beyond the inspection, title search, even financing.
She was like, if you're going to write a letter, let them know why and get personal if that's what you want. And so she attached it to every offer after that I put on there.
Beauvoir got the house from someone who was touched by her appeal. Brown, who runs the brokerage, worries about the judgment. Will her largely low-income clients be able to afford a buyer's fee up front if her agents are no longer paid as part of the price? Will they want to negotiate a commission?
The journey of home ownership or selling a home can be a roller coaster. So adding in the difficulties of now, another layer of negotiating what has been a standard for so long, is just going to make it more difficult.
On the plus side of the judgment, maybe fewer of what Brown calls fly-by-night agents. There are some 2 million real estate agents in America, 1.6 million of them realtors, and yet barely 5 million homes sold last year. 1 in every 100 American workers holds a real estate license, and yet 80% of them sell little to nothing, says economist Miller.
If the fees come down and the good agents sell more homes, that means that there's a lot of part-timers and mediocre agents that are out of the industry.
So what's the economy's final verdict likely to be? Should the juries be upheld?
We should move towards what we see in other developed countries like the UK, Israel, Singapore, and that would suggest that the fees would move from 5 to 6% down to 3 to 4%.
If sellers and buyers start negotiating, would Jared Bright negotiate now?
Absolutely, 100%.
In the end, for each 1% less in commissions, buyers and sellers would have saved more than $20 billion last year. 3% less? More than $60 billion, something like $13,000 a house. And to up the pressure, Mike Ketchmark has now started a lawsuit against the industry nationwide in the name of cutting home prices by bidding down commissions, which could lower prices and start a whole lot of haggling. For the PBS NewsHour, Paul Salman in Kansas City, Missouri.